Today we're trying to explain to you about the push-pull method for steering. Okay, it's very simple once you've got a grip of it, but processing yourself doesn't feel very natural initially when you start to learn to drive. Okay. This will be very much when you start learning to drive is what you'll more likely do. You'll put your hand over your hands, you start turning the steering. Now by all accounts there is nothing wrong with the type of steering that you do. However, there are implications with doing what you potentially will do if you do hand over hand, single-handed steering, things like that. So I'm going to try and explain to you maybe the easier method or what would be the safer method. There is no right or wrong with any of them, but by all accounts the dangers involved by doing certain things will outweigh those of the way that we would like to teach you and the way we'd like you to drive in the future. Push-pull steering method is very much like trying to turn a valve off on a water pipe where you feed it from one hand to the next hand. I'm just going to show you that here. Position ourselves correctly, looking to the right, looking to the left, we can see it's clear. So the feed through the hands, we literally move top to bottom and then feed back again as we come out. Ever so simple. If you literally use the top of the steering wheel and the bottom of the steering wheel, and imagine your right hand covers from the top around the sides to the bottom, and the left hand covers from the top around the sides to the bottom. And as long as you don't sort of cross over those areas, you'll find it's quite an easy method to do. So again, we're going to take the road on the right here. So we're checking our mirrors, giving a signal, positioning the road, slow our speed. Select the appropriate gear, look into the road and then turn in. And again, push-pull method and feed it back out as we come into the new road. Check our mirrors again. Again, I'm going to turn left, so again, checking my mirrors, centre and left, signal. Reduce some speed, select an appropriate gear, watch out for these pedestrians, and turn into the road. Again, just push and pull method. Turn right at the end of the road, so checking my mirrors again, giving the signal, position myself in the road. And looking right and left, I can see it's nice and clear. Now, push pull, nice and easy, there's stacks of control with the car. But by all accounts, I'm going to use a different method, and I'm going to show you the arm over arm one here. Turn into the road, and it's not a problem. The downside to it though is that my arms cross each other. Now if you're not careful, you get your arms twisted up and you'll end up finding that you run out of arm movement, hand movement, whichever way you want to call it. So again, we're turning left again, checking my mirrors, giving a signal, position myself in the road. Looking to my right, and it's nice and clear, so I can carry on. Straighten up. The problem with hand over hand is that you'll end up with this sort of effect. Now, by doing that, as I say, you could run out of arms or hands and you're going to end up twisted because one hand keeps hold of the steering wheel and it's got no further you can physically turn your arms, and then you're a little bit messed up, you're sort of tied up in knots, and it's going to make it very, very awkward to continue trying to do any more steering if you need more steering. So it's one that we don't recommend. The other big issue with regards hand over hand steering is by moving your hand across in front of the steering wheel here. This little thing here is an airbag, and airbags can deploy anywhere up to about 220 miles an hour. So if you imagine your arm is in front of that airbag and it goes off, where's your hand going? It's going to get thrown straight back into your face. I don't know what the punch power of someone like Chris Eubank is, but I can imagine it's not 220 miles an hour, and if that can knock somebody out, you know what your hand's going to do to you. So by all accounts, it's something we don't recommend. There are other forms of steering as well, and again, you see people do it a lot of the time. That's not necessarily wrong, but again, you don't have as much control over the steering if you use those methods. I'm going to show you a couple of other ones here. You tend to find some people, when they get a little bit confident with their driving, they sit with one hand on the gear stick, and you know, they come to the end of the road and they do their observation check, and they just merrily sort of steer one hand on one hand. Now, this is all well and good, you know, I've got control over the car, but if I hit a pothole, if I hit the curb, if the road was a little bit slippery, if I've got to take evasive action quickly, just by steering one hand, it doesn't give me as much control as it would do if I've got both hands on the steering wheel. So again, it's something we don't recommend, and again, you've got that same scenario that you would have if you're doing hand over hand, is that by spinning the steering wheel, and I'll show you at the end of this road, by spinning the steering wheel with just one hand on it, this method, again, you're going across the airbag. So again, it's going to give you that scenario. If the airbag goes off, hand in the face, you know, could put an eye socket out, could break your nose. It's not going to be very comfortable, to say the least. Okay, so again, end of the road. I'm coming here and I'm just sort of spinning it round and spinning it back again, but it's just very impractical. Okay, there's another method that people tend to use a lot, and again, it's not necessarily wrong, but again, you don't have complete control of the steering. Now, this is where we let go of the steering as we come to straighten up when we turn into a road. So we're going to turn into the road here, and as I turn in, as I come out the road, I can sort of let the steering, it'll automatically sort of take its central position for the wheels to go in a straight line, but again, it's not necessarily safe. And again, if you're on a road that might be a little bit icy, might be a loose surface, the traction of the tyres may go with the road itself, and again, it will cause the wheels to not straighten up where you need them to straighten up. So again, by having complete control of the car, it's best to have both hands on the steering wheel at all times. And the push-pull method is without a doubt the most safest method out there. Now, we always sort of say, you know, put your hands at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Ultimately, it's a case of where you feel comfortable. I mean, I've had pupils who, they feel comfortable down here. Now, you don't have as much leverage down here, but it's not wrong. So you can position sort of where you actually want to position. It's not going to affect, as such, the driving, and you need to be comfortable when you're driving. You don't want to be driving where your arms are really tight and stretched. You don't want to be too close to the steering wheel, you don't want to be too far away from the steering wheel. You want to be able to have a good all-round observation of the car and feel comfortable and relaxed. Relax your shoulders, don't feel really, really tense. If you're tense when you're driving, it's going to make your driving a lot more erratic, and it's going to wear you out. You're going to feel tired very quickly if you're constantly driving in a sort of hunched up position, not too close to the steering wheel. Okay. See a car coming. Just going to slow down and stay back from this van. And I can't see fully clear, so I'm just going to creep out nice and gently so I can see clear down the road. That's good. steering. It's not a hard one to do. It does take a little bit of time to adapt to the push and pull method, but the more practice you get, the easier it gets. But it does just make everything a lot smoother, and you'll find you're a much more relaxed drive whilst using that method. Okay, just keep practicing. You can do it at home with a Tupperware lid, Timber Quality Street lid, or something like that. Just get used to that, feeding it from one end into the